So Iran cancels negotiation as Israel bombs Lebanon.
Well, today was not a quiet day, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So just about an hour ago, there's been some reports from a few outlets that the Iranians, unconfirmed, have walked out from the are not going to go to Switzerland for the signing ceremony and the negotiations because Israel keeps bombing Lebanon. There's bombing happening as we speak right now. There's clashes with Hezbollah. But let's kind of rewind. J.D. Vance continued what we were laughing about yesterday, which is the massive shift by Trump and his administration against Israel.
Trump got to be not happy with Netanyahu over being tricked into this Iran war, which he still has to pretend that he's won. But actually, on that note, I said there wouldn't be a deal until Trump stopped pretending to have won, and he's getting close to that now. It's interesting.
Vance saying to about Ben Gvir and Smotrich, he goes, "You can't kill your way out of every national security problem. You're a country of 9 million people. What's your actual proposal?" Then he goes about Netanyahu. Over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons protecting Israel were built by American hands and paid for by American taxpayers. The problem for Israel is not Trump. Anyone who thinks it is needs to wake up and smell the reality. And then he talks about, there it is. There's another one here. We were right on the cusp of a major breakthrough. And then there's a big explosion in a civilian area in Beirut, killing people who have nothing to do with Hezbollah. That's not acceptable. And then he goes, Israel has the right to...
That's been happening the entire war. A big explosion, killing people that have nothing to do with fighting Israel. In Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, a lot of places. Israel likes bombing things.
Defend itself. No one can take that away. But they also have to respect this peace process because it's good for them and good for the whole region. So that's J.D. Vance today, continuing on what Trump started. And he goes on and on. There's more similar statements. What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, that's too bad they weren't saying that at the start on October 8th, October 9th. It would have been one thing to have come out and condemned Hamas. And Israel did have options back then. Because they could have brought together economic sanctions against Hamas and maybe compel them to turn over those responsible for this attack.
Netanyahu funded Hamas to the tune of $1.3 billion. He's in the business of giving money to Hamas, not sanctioning Hamas.
And you got the hostages out, but instead it was...
it was Qatari money funneled through the IDF to Hamas. So technically the money came from Qatar, but it was still Netanyahu who did the handing over of the $1.3 billion to Hamas between 2012 and 2022.
I think more people agree it was a deliberate, contrived. It was Israel knew it was Hamas was going to do it, and Israel was going to take advantage of that opportunity to try to destroy Hamas, destroy the Palestinians.
No, not to destroy Hamas. You have Netanyahu on record saying that Netanyahu is the best thing for the Greater Israel, for preventing the two-state solution. No, this was about destroying Gaza, shrinking the area the Palestinians have in Gaza. That was what this was about. Fighting Hamas is just a pretext.
Come up with a reason. Now they're caught. See, they thought they had destroyed Hezbollah. Between the assassinations of Nasrallah and then the pagers and then the cell phones, so they compromised all sorts of intelligence assets in the process. And lo and behold, here's Hezbollah back stronger than ever, more effective with drones, inflicting more casualties on Israel on a daily basis.
They should have seen this coming, Israel. I mean, the FPV drones have been used for years in the Ukraine war between Ukraine and Russia. So their effectiveness is well known at this point. So Israel should have known Hezbollah would use them against the IDF because they're perfect for that scenario. For unconventional warfare, for fighting a superior force, drones are perfect.
Now, Israel can't sustain that. And the United States, it's already, U.S. is withdrawing from the area. I don't know if you know that yet or not. But
from the region.
Right. So, in terms...
Like the buildup of forces in the region to attack Iran, that's being reversed now. And of course it would be if peace is on the table because it's costly to maintain all these forces on the other side of the world for the United States.
In terms of being postured militarily to carry out any more attacks against Iran, the process of reversing the flow has started. So like on February 26th or in the days prior to the 28th of February when the war was launched, the Central Command, they canceled exercises. They set up crisis action teams or joint operations centers, the JOCs, also called JOCs or TOCs. And that was set up at Central Command Headquarters at MacDill Air Force Base. It was set up out at the forward base out in, say, Al Udeid in Qatar, set up at the Pentagon National Military Command Center. Those are now down. Those have been taken down. They were operating 24/7, and you'd come in, military personnel, staff up, and civilian contractors. You'd come in, you'd work 12 hours. So you'd show up for the turnover brief.
Always find it interesting to hear the behind the scenes. All the amount of logistics that are necessary for war is insane. You nearly need as many people not fighting, just doing logistics, as you need fighters on the front line to wage any type of war. And that gets more and more true if you're the United States fighting Iran on the other side of the world. Getting fighter jets there, they can't fly there all the way. They need refuel aircrafts to refuel them, or they need to stop at airports along the way. They can only fly like 500 miles. And it's so complicated.
Say get at 6 in the morning or 6 in the evening, do the turnover brief, and then you'd leave, and you'd come back for the next 12 hours, 12 hours later. That's been shut down. The only one that's operating is what's called the Air Combatant Commander. And their job, they're basically figuring out how they're going to get all this aircraft that we flew over there, the KC-135s and the F-35s and the A-10s and the F-15s and the F-16s and the F-22s. You got to bring all those home. And so that's what they're in the process of doing. So they're starting to leave. And so that's going to, so as they're leaving, that means less U.S. firepower to be used. And also you're going to see
less U.S. firepower available to be used against Iran should something happen.
Marines that have been floating around in ships, they're going to be heading back to port. They're not there anymore. I doubt if they're there on station right now. We haven't heard much about.
Yeah, Trump's lifted the blockade. He's not going to keep the ships that were there for the blockade there, just in case he wants to put blockade back. No, he's all in on this piece now. He's moving assets away from the region.
Aircraft that was forward deployed at Diego Garcia, that's going to be redeployed. So the United States has now decided, okay, we're out of here. And then so to Israel, it's like, okay, well, we told you not to do it. So whatever you do from this point on, it's on you. And that's where J.D. Vance's point about, hey, 2/3.
Yeah, the messaging, you can't just bomb civilians every time to get yourself out of conflicts. Like, they have nothing to do with the conflict. That Trump was saying, that type of messaging that basically trying to get Israel, that some are taking as anti-Israel, that is to put pressure on Israel so that Trump doesn't want to be dragged back into this war. And so he's signaling that I don't have your back 100% if you drag me back into this.
2/3 of what you're using comes from us. So, you want to try it with 1/3, good luck.
Yeah, Trump made that point that 2/3 of the weapons Israel has been using in this war and against Lebanon, etc., is from the United States. And that he's making the point that, yes, I'm supporting Israel, but implicit there is the threat that those 2/3 could just disappear and you'd only have 1/3 left. So it's both highlighting the help he's given already and a veiled threat that 2/3 could disappear.
And then he talks about, similar to what Trump was saying yesterday, Iran keeps its ballistic missile program, but the final deal is supposed to stop them from building missiles capable of threatening the entire world. So he talks about Iran having missiles with a certain range is justified. So similar to what Trump was saying yesterday. Now, one of my guests was making an interesting point. I'm in the same court as you, that I do think that we are seeing a shift within the administration towards Israel. At least the beginning of a shift. But I'm not too excited. I'm not sure how long it will last and what happens after Trump leaves office. But one of my guests said, Murray, don't get too excited. Trump is one of the most Zionist presidents the U.S. has had in a while, him and Biden. So what he believes is happening is what Trump and Vance are doing.
I would have agreed with him 6 months ago. But now, this war, Iran war, Trump knows it already, that he's going to be badly crippled by this war, that his presidency is at stake and he's desperately trying to get out and to salvage what he can. That's what this peace deal is. And with his ego, having to surrender to Iran, it's got to be painful. And who's responsible for that pain? The man who went to the White House and tricked him into this war, who made the presentation. He made the sales pitch for this war, was Netanyahu. He was the main person who sold this to Trump. And Trump is not happy with that person. He can't say so publicly because admitting he's angry with Netanyahu means that it's about the same as admitting he lost the Iran war. So he can't do that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, on one hand, he has those millions and millions and millions of campaign contributions from AIPAC, etc. On the other hand, he's stuck in this absolutely horrendous war.
This is them admitting defeat. This is them selling the MOU. This is them telling the world, like, hey, we have no choice but to sign this deal. But they are not turning on Israel. And the two, so it's important.
Yes. But admitting defeat is turning on Israel in a way, because Israel wanted the United States to destroy Iran, even at the cost of itself. Like, even if Trump had to destroy his own presidency to do it and call up the draft, get 1 million troops over there, take tens of thousands of casualties, and take out Iran for Israel. And anything short of that is basically betraying Israel, as far as Israel is concerned.
Important to draw a line between giving up to Iran and just waving the white flag with making statements like this that align with Iran and oppose what Israel's saying, versus turning on Israel. And he's in the camp, he's not binary, but he does believe this is more likely that the administration is just accepting defeat. They lost the war rather than turning on Israel.
I don't understand the difference. Once you accept the defeat, that means everything that Israel had wanted to achieve is...
Israel wasn't prepared to accept the defeat. Israel was all in on this war. It wanted to attack Iran more. So accepting defeat in this Iran war, that is, according to Israel, betraying Israel.
Not achieved.
So I'll tell you the difference. I've asked him the question. I'm like, what do you think will happen if Israel gets into war with Iran? If Iran falls into the trap and attacks Israel, Israel retaliates and things escalate. I'm in the belief that the US may not do anything, may not get involved. And he said he's pretty confident they'll get involved. But me and you, we had the discussion yesterday. I think they will.
If they would get involved, then this entire deal is pointless. Then what Israel just needs to do is bomb somewhere in Iran, and Iran will retaliate, and the United States gets drawn in, because if Trump truly is Netanyahu's bitch to that extent, the fact that Israel isn't bombing Iran means that they're not confident that Trump would back them, would re-enter the war on their behalf. So it is turning on Israel in a way.
Okay, what does get involved mean? Because, they'll get involved. Oh, they're going to magically fly aircraft over there all of a sudden? But look, this is not the Star Trek generation where we have this magical transponder. Just beam me up, Scotty. If right now, if Iran decides to attack Israel, and, we still have aircraft, but let's say it's a week or 2 weeks from now. So there are no KC-135s. There are no F-35s to speak of. So we don't, and with that, the Tomahawks and the JASSMs that we brought over, they've come back. So Iran attacks Israel. Israel tries to retaliate. Iran then can continue the wave after wave after wave of ballistic missile. What does the United States do? Oh my God, we got to start deploying somebody. Okay, tell your KC-135 to start flying. You got a 10 to 12 hour flight. And, all those F-35s, yeah, they fly pretty fast, but they have to be refueled every 500 miles. And it's, an 8,000-mile trip to get there? So just do the math about you're going to have air refuelers. So it's not just a matter of, beat me up, Scotty, we're going to war. Yeah, that's, what do these guys think? That's magical thinking about military. Oh, yeah, we'll go to support them right away. There's not a lot we could do right away.
But that's assuming that Israel, but I'm with you, just to be clear. But that's assuming that the US pull out all their aircraft and their military equipment from Israel as well. I guess they'd keep some sort of presence there.
Why would you say that?
I do agree that Trump would withdraw some troops, but he'd leave something. I don't think he understands the value of having some military assets in the region to be able to at least conduct limited strikes against Iran. So yes, the United States would always have something.
I'm not that hopeful that the US would divorce Israel so quickly. I would love to see that.
Yeah, this is. I think Trump made the calculation. It's a very simple calculation. At maximum, and this includes Jews who are not of voting age.
Keeping some forces in the Middle East around Israel, it's a deterrent against Iran or a strike. Having those forces available to strike Iran, and it builds political capital in Israel. Israel likes having U.S. forces around it. So, and Trump needs Israel out of Lebanon. So I don't see them giving up leverage over Israel. He'll withdraw, I think, a lot of troops from the region, but he'll keep enough so that to give Israel a sense of security and thereby some political capital. Don't think it'll be enough to get Israel out of Lebanon in of itself, but he needs that to happen.
You got 10 million Jewish Americans, or Americans who are claim to be Jewish and vote. Well, not all 10 million vote. Number one, so they're a minority group. Yes, they're powerful in terms of money. They're powerful in terms of got a number of very the head corporations and other things and news outlets. But
they have a disproportional impact on U.S. politics, but they aren't all powerful.
But you still, just depending upon them, serving them isn't going to guarantee you an election win. In fact, it may very well increase the chances of you losing an election. And I think they know what's coming economically. Trump got briefed. He was warned. There is an economic catastrophe coming. And he said it himself.
Yes, we are 4 weeks away from tank bottom. Trump said that himself. And this opening Strait of Hormuz isn't in time to fix that. There's going to be a crunch this summer. It's going to be ugly.
We're going to be out of oil in 4 weeks, mid-July. So, that's what we heard that. Pepe heard that before Trump said it. I mean, Pepe and I were talking yesterday. Well, before that, he said that, and that was what he was being told by his sources. And man, lo and behold, Trump comes out and confirms it. So they know there's something brewing, because this scared Trump.
I did say it. I have said it, and I'll repeat it. $150 oil in the futures market before the end of August. That's what I believe will happen.
To the point, he did a complete 180. I mean, a sharp about face, and he's back to making the conciliatory comments about Iran. And here is Iran serious about, the Israelis got to stop attacking Lebanon and attacking Hezbollah. That's got to stop.
Yeah.
It's not just stopping. Israel needs to get out of Lebanon. That is what is actually in the MOU. And that's going to be the biggest sticking point, I think, to this whole thing.
I want to ask you about the statement by the Supreme Leader today. Just one part of it I'll read now. I, in principle, so he put out a statement today, not a long one. And in that statement, he says, I, in principle, had a different opinion about the MOU. But, so he was, as in not for it. But due to the commitment that the Honorable President, as the head of the Supreme National Security Council, gave on behalf of himself and other members to uphold the rights of the Iranian nation and the resistance front, and because he explicitly accepted responsibility for it, I issued permission for it. They also explicitly stated that if the American side tries to make excessive demands, they will not accept them. So in a way, and I've seen a lot of people in different groups.
There is a hardline element in Iran, and it's definitely the Supreme Leader who's father, wife, daughter, etc., was killed by the United States. He is definitely among the hardliners. I'd be willing to guess.
Get upset when they saw that statement. They're like, "Oh, Mujtaba Khamenei was against the agreement. He was convinced by the other, by Ghalibaf and Arachi and the president to sign the agreement." That's not how I see it, but he did give his permission. But it is an interesting statement where he does, in a way, distance himself. I don't know whether this is strategic to tell the Americans, like, hey, tread carefully, because we may change our mind because the Supreme Leader has cold feet. So just sending a message to the world. Or he's genuinely trying to distance himself for political purposes, or he's just saying the truth. It's an interesting statement.
I think it's just the truth. That is my thing. He has got to be a hardliner. He's the hardliner of hardliners, with his entire family killed in a U.S. strike. And he probably absolutely hates the United States and doesn't want to agree to anything. But he recognizes reality that Iran has other interests, and the civilian, like the president, represents those interests, and he is bowing to that, although he personally would want to fight the United States to the bitter end. So I think that statement is just the truth on his part.
Yeah. Well, it certainly flies against the stereotype here in the United States that the Ayatollah is this crusty old authoritarian who's ordering everybody. Everybody's got to obey him. And he said, "Hey, I sort of disagreed, but this is the president." Now, when he said President of the Security Council, I think he's referring to Ghalibaf, correct, and not Pezeshkian. Or did
No,
they
no.
clarify?
Galibaf is a Speaker of the Parliament. Yeah, I think I didn't know Pezeshkian was the head of the Supreme National Security Council as well as the President, but I'm assuming so because he says, but due to the commitment that the Honourable President, as the head of the Supreme National Security Council, so I think he means Pezeshkian, and Pezeshkian is the one that signed it and put his photo. Galibaf and Pezeshkian put a statement just a few minutes ago. I read it, nothing too significant, but kind of supporting the Supreme Leader. That was about 30 minutes ago. They put a very similar statement both together. So there was no split or anything.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting.
Well, and
But your point is, but please finish. It's an important point that stereotype of like he says something, everyone abides, no one has a say. That statement says otherwise.
yeah. I mean, it shows that these
I think obviously they're not a unanimous blob, and if it was just like that, the new supreme leader, there'd be no peace agreement. I don't think. I don't think the guy whose entire family was killed by the United States is in any hurry to give us an easy way out of this Iran war.
these are pretty rational people, and as we talked yesterday, when you step back and look at that memorandum of understanding, the 5 areas that Iran had identified as red line are each addressed in there, and addressed in a way where, while it's not definitive that it's got to be done by dates, the specific date and time, but the sanctions relief, unfrozen assets, lifting the blockade, I mean, that's already been done. That was underway. And then recognizing authority over the Strait of Hormuz, that's conceded in the document. And then finally, the stopping the war in Lebanon. Now, the document does explicitly give both Iran and the United States the obligation to guarantee the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Lebanon. So now it's a question of how will Iran interpret that? One way to interpret it is to turn to the United States and say, okay, you get your dog back on the collar there and get him back in the cage.
Yes, at some point, Trump is going to have to prove that he can put Israel on a leash and get it out of Lebanon in order to get the final agreement. This MOU is just basically starting a more serious ceasefire phase leading up to an opening Strait of Hormuz, leading up to a final agreement. And Israel out of Lebanon is part of that process.
The alternative is that Iran says, if you don't do it, we will. And they very much so. And at that point, again, I don't see the United States wanting to rush to get back into the fight on behalf of Israel, because the United States suffered significant damage to its infrastructure and its aircraft that really has not been admitted in public. And that
More than
the bases are destroyed to semi-destroyed in the region. All are U.S. bases. So all these staging grounds to attack Iran, they're so close to Iran, so ballistic drones could easily target them. And so they were mostly leveled.
than what we've seen already in the bases.
Yeah. I mean, without the full damage and the importance of some of these systems, because I'm told, and I wasn't told what the system was, but I'm just told that one of the systems that was hit was highly classified.
The one in Bahrain, yeah.
Yeah, something beyond top secret, and that the fact that it was hit and destroyed just left the U.S. side shocked. So that's there's that element to it. And you're seeing though the political reaction in the States is the Israeli lobby is still very, very powerful, and you've got Republicans and Democrats critical of this decision.
At this moment, they're trying to merge the U.S. and Israeli military industrial complex and CIA and Mossad, so that all U.S. intelligence automatically gets shared with Israel. So yes, Israel does have a lot of leverage over Congress.
Which I find sort of, it's revealing. I wouldn't call it amusing, but it is revealing. But on the other hand, among the populace, among the public, there's no appetite for further war, particularly a war against Iran.
What do you make of the CNN article of Netanyahu lobbying to shape the MOU, the final MOU, the final agreement, including by pressuring Trump through allies and intermediaries in Washington, to all these different pundits and members of Congress? How far do you think that pressure will go? And do you think?
I think Trump, by this time, is well aware of the full extent of Israeli pressure that it can bring to bear. And he would have not gone ahead with this MOU unless he was prepared to resist that. Now, that pressure could somehow exceed its expectations, and the MOU could still fall apart. But that's not the most likely scenario.
It will have an impact.
Well, that train has left the station. Change the MOU. MOU is already signed.
No, sorry, to change the final agreement. I misspoke.
Oh, so you mean when they sit down to negotiate?
160 days, yeah.
Yeah, well.
So they've given up. That was my sense when Lindsey Graham put out a post yesterday. I don't know if we talked about it yesterday. He put out a post. No, I think he put it this morning. He was praising the MOU. When I read that, I'm like, okay, there's no way Lindsey Graham suddenly changed.
Good on you. Good on you.
Yeah. So when I read that, my assumption is that it seems that they've kind of given up on trying to impact the MOU or trying to continue the war. That ship has sailed, as you said. But what they're trying to do is now the next step is try to sabotage the end agreement, and then maybe in the future administration in 2-3 years try to get back to war, drag the US into war. But the strategy of trying to get the war now and sabotage the MOU, giving up on that.
Yeah, well, the MOU is in place. So now the further discussions are getting sanction relief, getting all the sanctions removed. Some can be done by executive order. Some have to be done through process at the United Nations. Getting to get the negotiations on the remaining nuclear, the enriched nuclear uranium.
I think all of those will be easy because we will be having that oil crunch this summer. And that will motivate Congress, Republicans in Congress who don't want to lose the midterms, and nations around the world who don't want economic collapse. Getting rid of sanctions should be easy.
At 90 or 60%, what to do with that. So I'm sure Israel will try to insist that the issue of ballistic missiles by Iran be, solved, and Iran's not going to do it. They'll say, "Hell no, we're not talking about that."
No.
What happens now though is Iran's economy is free right now, more free than it ever has been in years, and it's assisted in that because of what's taking place with China and Russia. And there was a note out, news out today that 26 foreign banks have now signed up with China for doing transfers. And so instead
the alternative to the dollar is getting stronger and stronger.
of going through SWIFT, they're now going through Chinese, what is called
I forgot what it's called.
the SIPS.
SIPS, yeah.
Yes, interbank. It's a country interbank payment system, and that's huge because China already has four of the largest. The top 4 banks or largest in the world are Chinese. So they're building this. They're building up this international network that is going to circumvent having to go through U.S. dollars. Because as long as you go into with U.S. dollars, U.S. can try to seize it.
Yeah.
And so they're moving it into the yuan and into gold to get it outside of the control of the United States. So that whole process is still, while these negotiations are going to be taking place, and remember, Trump's motivation to do this was to get the oil flowing, because if the oil's not flowing, there's going to be a catastrophe in the West. Well, the reality is the oil's not going to flow fast. Number one, you got to demine the Persian Gulf before the insurance company, Lloyd's of London, are going to start insuring these ships to let them go through. So, the Pentagon said that could take up to 6 months. Well, let's just say they get it done in 3 months. So that's 3 months where some of these tankers that are not Iranian flagged are not going to be moving. Now, the Iranian tankers are moving, but even when they start moving, it's going to take them 4 to 8 weeks to get to their destination. They'll offload it, but actually probably 8 weeks because they're going to China. Most of them are going to China. So
let's check in on the Strait of Hormuz, the traffic through it. Okay, this is, up to now, whenever I check in, there would only be 2 tankers through it. Yet right now, this is a tanker, and it's heading in to the Strait of Hormuz. But you see how they're taking this route here? One, that's because this is the route the Iranian Authority had set up to deal with Strait of Hormuz wants ships to take. The other reason is there might be mines in this middle part. So even if the mines aren't removed, there is a route through the Strait of Hormuz that it is safe. Everyone knows it's safe because there's hundreds of ships that have gone through here. So I don't think the insurance is going to be such an issue as long as ships follow the non-mine path that everyone knows there's no mines in. I don't think the insurance will be a big issue, but it will be hard for traffic to go up to pre-war levels if it needs to get through this narrow band, because These tankers are big, they're not maneuverable, and to have traffic go back up to like 140 ships a day, I think you're going to need to have this demined. So it's like a bottleneck right now. Right now, this part isn't passable. Ships have to go up around here. And as long as that's true, just the logistics of getting through the straits will limit the outflows from the Persian Gulf.
China will benefit from this right away. And Iran will get paid in yuan and then build up that yuan, and it is also have a tie into gold. So then the ships themselves are in not great shape. They've been sitting there, just at anchor for almost 4 months. So there's some issues with that, and we're assuming, we don't know, that all of the oil pipeline infrastructure, the pumping stations, the terminals, that they're all in good working order, that they were not damaged with explosives or bombs. If they are damaged, again, you're looking at weeks, if not months, to get repair, get them open so that they can fill up ships. So Trump's hopes that this would get everything moving quickly, I think he's going to be quite disappointed by it, and which raises the specter that you can see a dramatic spike in gasoline prices and oil prices in July into August.
Yep.
It probably wouldn't be until September, October at the earliest that you'd start to see them settle down again.
That's exactly what I expect to happen. A spike in July, August. It's September, October. As the flows out of the Strait of Hormuz start coming in, I think it'll drop back down towards 100. And then it'll be like between like 90 and 100 for the rest of the year, is my prediction.
In that regard as well, the Wall Street Journal reported there's been frequent calls between Trump and Netanyahu, but they have soured. Trump questioned Netanyahu as to why he's still bombing buildings and asked him to stop. Trump has also told his advisors that no one can handle Netanyahu, who just wants to, quote, bomb everyone. A source familiar with the recent calls said that they amount to
Trump is learning who Netanyahu truly is.
Netanyahu continuing to push for more military action. Quote, Bibi tells the president why he needs to blow something up and why Israeli intelligence knows how to do it and when to do it. And the president listens. The calls are usually the same. It's funny. So Netanyahu calls Trump, hey, we found this building. Mossad says it's a great building. We got XYZ in there. And we will bomb it. We will obliterate it. Trump listens, and Trump's like, "No, Bibi, no."
Yes, Israel might even be right that there's X, Y, and Z in there. But if it's an apartment building, there's probably A, B, and C, which is all civilians, also in that building. And Israel is perfectly willing to sacrifice hundreds to kill one target, hundreds of innocents. And that is the way it operates. For every one Israeli killed, they kill 100.
Yeah.
Trump, please. No, I said, and this is the call. And that's the Wall Street Journal story in a nutshell. And this is another report here by Reuters. The US and Israel are engaged in, quote, stubborn negotiations over Israel's presence in southern Lebanon. So we're seeing that power struggle happen. Meanwhile, actually, before we go into what's happening in Lebanon, let's talk about the story that we mentioned at the beginning. Do you think the report by, I think the first to report it were Al Mayadeen, that the Iranians may not go to Switzerland? Do you think that could be the case?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yep, that's the title of this video. Is Iran cancels negotiations as Israel bombs. It's a good pressure tactic on Iran's side. It needs to show it's serious about Lebanon.
And it gets back to what are Iran's got a couple of options. They can tell the United States, look, we were counting on you to get the Israelis to stop. They're not stopping, so we're going to stop them in accordance with that agreement.
Remember, just beginning of this week, I said, now we're going to find out if Israel can stop bombing Lebanon for a few days. And I said the chance of that was practically zero. And I was right. They never stopped. They bomb.
Agreement, or they can put, because they don't want to necessarily get back into having to exchange, missiles and such. They just say until Israel lives up to that side of the agreement, we're not going. Now, to that end, Iran may have asked the Hezbollah to not fire any more drones into Israel, into northern Israel. They confine their attacks on the territory of Lebanon against Israeli units. I don't know if they've done that or not, but
that would be politically wise decision. It would improve Iran's leverage, as if Hezbollah is attacking actually Israeli proper. Actually, look at this on a map. See, Israel has invaded this area of Lebanon up to here. If Hezbollah is just attacking IDF units in Lebanon, that because they're not supposed to be there as per the ceasefire, they're supposed to withdraw out of Lebanon. So that's arguably not a violation of ceasefire because Israeli IDF is not supposed to be there. That's one thing. But if Hezbollah fires rockets into Israel proper, that is Hezbollah violating the ceasefire. And then that gives Israel a perfect excuse to bomb targets in Lebanon. So the smart thing to do is for Hezbollah to focus entirely on its FPV campaign against IDF soldiers and use Iran to pressure the United States to get the IDF out of Lebanon.
So that's one thing I would, if I was in Iran's shoes, I would do.
Yeah, I think that. You don't know if the Iranians did that, but I think Hezbollah is not attacking northern Israel. And Al Jazeera reported that Nabi Berri, the ally of Hezbollah, the head of Amal, he said, so which is he's become the unofficial spokesperson for Hezbollah in a way, and he says, "quote I confirm the commitment of Hezbollah to a ceasefire as long as Israel fully and comprehensively abides by it." So Hezbollah has made their position clear. Before, their position was we will only cease fire if Israel pulls out. Now they say we will cease fire even if Israel doesn't pull out.
Well, I think the reason they changed that is in the MOU, Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon is in the MOU, this ceasefire. So Lebanon, Hezbollah can abide by it and expect Israel to pull out.
Pull out to give the negotiations time to come up with a plan for the Israelis to pull out. And there's another report here about Israel trying to convince Trump to stay in southern Lebanon.
Yo, I'm late. Zach is still reading that report on the rape gangs in Europe. Oh yeah, I was watching the video and he was thinking about doing it tomorrow, but stupid me. That video was from yesterday, so today is reading the rape report. Okay, well, I was going to I'm planning on watching a video on that subject later, and I like reacting it on YouTube. Live on stream would be a little weird, but it's good that he's reading it. I don't know if I can react to him reading the entire thing, but it's probably horrendous, isn't it? It seems there is controlled disclosure where the hatred is wielded against Islamic migration. I'm a bit frustrated. Controlled disclosure. What do you mean? This is going to be infuriating against Islamic migration because the UK rape gangs were something caused by Islamic migration. Yeah, it both, but the media, my primary target, and the government. People always say, oh, we should go after the government, we should go after the rape. Me, this media. The media is the ones I would put in jail first, personally speaking. Then, yes, the government. But I don't think it's entirely bad that there is this anger against Islamic migration, because if it wasn't a rape gang, it's not as though if the government were cracking down on it, there would still be sexual assaults by Islamic migrants. They just wouldn't be organized into rape gangs. It's the Islamic migration is still a problem. In places they don't have actual gangs doing stuff. In other places in Europe, there's still all types of sexual assaults. And I remember like a 72-year woman getting raped in Hungary. That really shocked me. It's just, why? Anyway, I'm going to focus on this. We'll get into that topic later.
Reuters, a senior Israeli official close to Netanyahu, says Israel's holding stubborn negotiations. Oh, we've read that already. And lastly, Hezbollah has rejected the pilot. So Israel's been kind of coming up with a strategy of having pilot zones in southern Lebanon, which the Lebanese government agreed with. So there are going to be pilot zones where the Israelis could be stationed in. Hezbollah has rejected that. Under the deal, the Lebanese army would take exclusive control of those areas, shutting out non-state actors and their weapons. Pilot zones where the Lebanese military would take control of these areas. The group, Hezbollah, is refusing any disarmament or limits on its presence and insists Israel's full withdrawal from Lebanon first, along with...
Lebanese government is just a Western puppet. I mean, what they've agreed to with Israel is just ludicrous. While huge swaths of the southern Lebanon are taken over by the IDF, and what the Lebanese government is complaining about Iranian meddling in their country. They're busy being conquered, invaded, and subjugated, and their primary concern is Iranian interference. Fuck the leaders in Lebanon.
With prisoner releases and reconstruction support before it halts fire. Okay, so this is a report in the morning, I think by CNN, I could be wrong, that Hezbollah rejected said that we will not disarm, we will not even discuss disarmament until Israel pulls out. Sorry, I'll take it back. I'll restart. My bad.
Yeah.
So they said we will not accept pilot zones where the Lebanese military will come in and disarm us and take over. So we won't accept that plan, which was the negotiated between Lebanon and Israel. And we will not cease fire until Israel pulls out. And it seems a few hours ago, about an hour ago, according to Nabi Berri, their position is like, you know what, we will cease fire if the Israelis cease fire, and we discuss their withdrawal later. So there seems to be, I wouldn't say concessions on Hezbollah, but they seem to be keen on getting that ceasefire to work. And now the ball's in Israel's court. But there's bombing as we speak, by the way. There's right now players going up and fighting between Hezbollah and Israel. So
of course,
we'll see.
there is.
Yeah. This is.
Well, that's basically the situation in the Middle East. Israel is still doing shit in Lebanon, and the rest of the world would really wish they would stop. But I will add one thing that to this Iran video is this. I thought it's worth noting.
And I don't think the Trump administration realized it. You know, Macron, he's a slippery character.
This is about signing the MOU that happened on Thursday, yesterday. Trump signed it in Versailles, France. And that's a little bit of an issue.
I think he wanted Trump to sign it in Versailles in order to make Trump look bad. June 28th, 1919? Was it?
Versailles Treaty was signed on June 28th, 1919. The primary peace agreement that officially ended World War I. And it was universally regarded as a disaster that led to World War II. And so that's why Macron tricked Trump into signing this MOU in Versailles.
When the Treaty of Versailles was signed, is that correct? I'm terrible with dates. 17th of June, 2026. Trump signing.
Yep, Macron did this for the memes.
Versailles. Macron posted on X, President Trump signed tonight at Versailles the agreement between Iran and the United States. This agreement paves the way for lasting peace and allows the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. It is an important step in the right
In other words, Macron made Trump a clown by convincing him to sign there.
direction for our compatriots that will soon enable a decrease in energy prices. Yeah, the whole thing was a big mistake. You should have waited till Friday in Switzerland. Sent Vance to sign it. So you sent Vance.
That was the plan. Trump was throwing Vance under the bus, getting him to sign the MOU in Switzerland on Friday. And then somehow Macron convinced him to sign it in Versailles himself. So that the failure or the political damage from this, instead of going to Vance, is going to go to Trump. And amplified by the fact that he was tricked into signing it in the Versailles Palace.
Signed it in Switzerland. You don't make it such a big deal. And it doesn't have any historical connection to...
Trump's ego is the downfall of him. That's how they tricked him into this. So he said, Macron, I don't think he needed to go to great lengths to trick Trump. He just said, why don't you sign it at Versailles Palace, this beautiful palace. It'll be great optics.
To a very, very talked about, a very documented, very discussed and analyzed treaty in history. It doesn't have any of those connections. Get Vance, goes to Switzerland, he signs it, and then you move on. But nope. Macron got him. I think Macron orchestrated this whole thing.
Absolutely. This was intentional. Signing at Versailles is not a normal thing. There's a reason no one wants to sign anything at Versailles.
Macron got him. He got him on this one. Bad move. Very bad move. Where are Trump's advisors in all of this? Galibaf, he said after Pezeshkian signed the document, he said the agreement is a record of U.S. failure. People will see it and judge. That is what Galibaf said. Quite an eventful day.
Yep. So that's the last little tidbit I wanted to add to this is Trump took a big L in being tricked to sign this MOU in Versailles. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.